Hello gamers and welcome to another edition of Game Warp. I'm Elwood.
I'm Kim.
And tonight we're celebrating the greatest female characters in video game history. Tonight we are talking about female characters in video games, and this is a topic that really we thought, it wasn't particularly deep until we started doing the research for it. Then we realised just how many female characters there have been over the years in video gaming, and certainly the impact that they've had, even though whenever we think of video games it seems to be this whole market of just male-fronted video games. So tonight we're actually going to be celebrating those iconic ladies of video games, and certainly the ones who have helped pave the way in many ways for the successors to follow in their various footsteps. So, I mean, Kim, if I'm right in saying that, much like yourself, it was hard to whittle this down to just like the 5 for your own list.
Pretty much. I mean, my list I think started with like over 30, and then it was kind of like, how do you do this? How do you choose going forward? And a lot of it had to do with, characters that kind of were unique in their own ways, in their own games, and, just it was more attractive to play the game because of the character.
Okay. And was there any sort of just any sort of games that would just drew you in more because it was a female-fronted game?
I have to say, I remember when I was younger, the first time that I played any fighting games, it was because of the female characters. So, Mortal Kombat, I was particularly drawn to it because of Sonya Blade. And then Street Fighter was because of Chun-Li. And that's just, 2 examples, obviously. But, I mean, I think those are the 2 prominent ones. Because if you think about it, I think maybe Lara Croft might count. Because I think that was the first game, action game that really, was a female character at that point, which really drew me in. Because, I mean, I could say Dino Crisis, but then I think it was the dinosaurs that drew me in and not the character.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's like when you think of Resident Evil. I mean, do you play Resident Evil because you get to play as Jill Valentine, or does the fact that you're getting to run around a mansion and avoid zombies? It's sometimes it's hard to say whether it was obviously the female character and the opportunity to play a female character that sort of draws you into a game. And it's been interesting, really, just doing the research for this. And when you look at things such as Monster Hunter World or GTA Online, these options where people have a chance to play on a much larger sort of canvas, that a lot of people will create female characters, often because as I said, they play the main game and it's a male character, and by playing a female character it almost feels like you're creating your own DLC within these worlds. And often it seems that the female characters have the better wardrobe compared to their male counterparts. And I know for myself, if I'm ever given the opportunity to create a character, I always create female characters, because I have so many games with male-fronted that are male-fronted and just have all these male characters, that it's just interesting and refreshing to play a female character. And often, especially now, because they're not treated with the same sort of restrictions that perhaps they would have back in the sort of day when I first started playing video games, where you'd have female characters would be sort of the faster but weaker sort of characters, compared to the male counterparts who would be slower and stronger. So it's nice to see the playing field sort of leveled out, and just the fact that you have so many people out there just happy to play female fronted games, the fact that you're playing a female character no longer holds the same sort of stigma that the gaming industry always felt that they would. It was guys won't play a game if it's a female character you're playing as. And I think, as you mentioned earlier, with Lara Croft in Tomb Raider, I think it pretty much proved everyone wrong.
I think that, in general, there are a lot of generalization of what people feel people will play at a certain time, because if you think about it, Metroid's main character is female, if I remember. I've never played Metroid, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and I believe Metroid is one of those retro games that people are looking forward to all the time, especially now that, isn't there a sequel that was supposed to come out, and I don't know if it came out yet. But I mean, you have all these things, and it's not hard to imagine, because I mean, Japanese games, a lot of them have female characters which are around it, and you can go all the way, go all the way back to even Final Fantasy, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Back then there was a lot of even in these storylines, like especially with strong narratives, there's always female characters. Obviously, they're always portrayed as like kind of like weaker roles in certain ways, or like they're healers, or you know, they're whatever witches or whatever, you know. They're not like, you know, your heavy hitter characters. And, you know, you can see that in comparison to, say, something like back then till now, where, you know, you look at Overwatch, and Overwatch has all these female characters who are very, very strong. And they're so diverse in their abilities that I think Overwatch is a really good example because, you know, in that sense, Overwatch has different ethnicities and different abilities and different appearances and all these different things, and it's kind of shown how gaming has reflected the world around us in how international it's become, and, you know, just the appeal of having female characters who are as competent as male characters.
I mean, just going back to what you were saying about Metroid, when Metroid came out, nobody knew that Samus was a female character. It was sort of like the big reveal where you made to the end of the game, and she suddenly, like, they strip the armor off, and it's like, oh wait, you've been playing as a hot chick all this time. It's like quite the revolution to seeing a little 12-bit glory there. Or 8-bit glory, because it's obviously been the NES.
Yeah.
This little pixelated form, it's like, oh. I know that you ask a lot of retro gamers about, like, playing that first Metroid game and having that reveal. I think it took a lot of people by surprise that it's like, oh, you've been playing as this kick-ass chick the whole time, and you thought you were playing as a guy. Burn.
It's very smart on that level, right? I mean, what's a bigger reveal than realizing your character wasn't who they expected the entire time?
Definitely so. And I mean, if you compare it to, you know, Princess Peach, who's just like constantly getting her ass kidnapped in the Mario games, it's all like it was a surprise to see a female character, you know, taking care of business herself rather than waiting for some Italian plumber to go and rescue her. Although, as I say, if I was Mario and like the first time it's sort of like I saw that, oh, the prince in another castle nonsense, like, no, we're done. You know, rescue yourself.
Especially because after so many games now, Princess Peach is always kidnapped and you always have to go save her.
It's like, help yourself for a change.
You know, after the first kidnapping, the logical thing is that Princess Peach would go and learn some martial arts or something, you know?
I have to say, it's just such a weird world with the Mario world. When you look at it, and the Sonic world, I guess, is the same as well. Where you have like this game where every new installment, Princess Peach is being kidnapped by Bowser, yet they put all the differences aside to go and race go-karts. It was just always like the weirdest world that was set in. So tonight we're obviously going to be putting together a little countdown. We've each picked 5 female characters from video game history that we feel, you know, have had the most impact on ourselves, and we're obviously going to go through them as we, between us, compile a top 10 list of essential female characters. So I know with yourself, Kim, there was quite a bit of whittling down the list, same as myself. So when I came to compile the list, I tried to avoid like the thinking of, oh, what historically have been like the most important ones, and instead just tried to focus on the characters that had the most impact myself as a gamer. So while there are obviously going to be characters that we perhaps miss out or don't mention, please do feel free to let us know in the comment section those female characters that you feel deserve their place in video game history and deserve being noted for their contributions. And because we'd obviously love to hear from yourselves, and you can obviously get in touch with us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can also check out our blog, which is gamewarppodcast.wordpress.com, where you can find reviews and our complete archive of episodes on there as well. But should we go ladies first this evening, seeing as we are talking about female characters?
No, I think that we should do the the traditional you go first. I'm still trying to decide what's in my 5th place, so I'm gonna let you go first.
Well, first off, I'm going to go with Chloe Fraser from the Uncharted games. Chloe is basically a really good counterpart to the game's Nathan Drake, in the fact that she's also a treasure hunter and more than capable of holding her own with Nathan, to the point that she got her own game with Uncharted The Lost Legacy. And initially she's introduced in Uncharted 2, and she's this character you're never sure whether you can trust her or not. She's kind of like a love rival in the game, and it's just interesting the fact that she sort of turns up and she's sort of like this kick-ass chick and like immediately warmed herself to the fans of the Uncharted game. So much like, you know, Scully and the other sort of characters that have constantly turned up in Nathan's adventures, Chloe has been a welcome addition since Uncharted 2, and the fact that they managed to give her own game and it didn't just feel like a gender swap version of Uncharted, the fact that she has her own sort of skills, she's got little demolition skills, and she's even got her own sort of female sidekick to accompany her on her journey, I think it's just was really great. And I think she's just really, really fantastic. I mean, she's voiced by Claudia Black, who I think will be a name that, you know, many people like Stargate and Farscape will know of already, and here she really does a great job with bringing this character to life and making her such a iconic character in the Uncharted universe, really. And the fact that you can create a character who's able to stand toe to toe with your main hero, I think really says a lot about her. So yeah, I think definitely at the top of my list would be Chloe Fraser.
Awesome. I've never actually gotten that far to play anything with Chloe Fraser, but I do know, like, generally where she stands in the whole Uncharted series, so...
In many ways, I mean, she's comparable to, like, Alkia from Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said, she's more than just, you know, the hot, feisty chick. She's got her own agendas, and she's never just there just to be, like, the love interest or to sort of stir things up for Nathan's journey. She's got her own goals in life, and she's got very few qualms about playing both sides, which I think always made her so interesting, because especially in the first game, you were never sure whether she was going to double cross you. You never knew which way she was going to go, and yeah, I'm hoping that they'll just continue to do games with her if they choose not to continue the Uncharted series. So
I really think that they should, it would be nice to keep having the Uncharted series, but it feels like they've genuinely stopped. Like the Lost Legacy was probably the last thing that they're going for, but I do like I think that the direction of changing it to a female focused game, especially with the female characters that they've introduced into the franchise, is, you know, a good point of, you know, a good, like, you know, spin-off kind of style for it.
Yeah. Definitely so. I know they are talking about doing an Uncharted 5 at the moment. Certainly Nolan North says that he's very much up for doing the game. So it really sort of lies in the hands of Naughty Dog which way they're going to go, especially now with The Last of Us 2 heading for its release. It's really... Well, all eyes are on them to see if the next project's going to be another Uncharted game, but certainly Nolan North is up for it, and with the upcoming game, so the upcoming movie adaptation on its way, hopefully we might see some more from the series, but at the moment it's yet to be confirmed.
Yeah, that's true.
So what's first on your list then? I'm
going to go with the first video game character that probably I got introduced to and played, and that would be Carmen Sandiego. Sounds really, really
nice.
Dumb. But I was in the young generation where Carmen Sandiego was kind of like my first contact with computer games at school, because I didn't have a computer at that time. And it was like, you know, just loving that whole where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, and the whole spawning that whole edutainment kind of franchise of, you know, learning about the world and all these places, and, you know, tracking down, using your logic to piece all the clues together and track down Carmen Sandiego, this, you know, female sleuth with her big red hat. You know, you would think that someone in such a flashy costume would be caught in like 3 seconds, right? But it's just, you know, Carmen Sandiego is such, like, it's probably one of, like, those first female video game characters, and I feel like people don't think about it as much. because, Carmen Sandiego, other than the fact that now it's having a comeback with, a Netflix series and the upcoming, I think, interactive movie or something like that. It's interesting to see where there's been a lot of remakes and tribute games that have been made for it on mobile. Well, not a lot, I think 1 or 2. But they really do stand up to what used to be played. And, Carmen Sandiego as a character, she's just so fun, because you're not really playing Carmen Sandiego, but you're chasing her. And she's just so iconic in my mind. Like, if we talk about female characters, Carmen Sandiego is like the first one that pops in my head.
I know what you're saying. I mean, she was such an iconic character, especially because this is a character that came out of educational video games, and educational video games by their nature never used to really have most memorable sort of characters. They were just sort of there to drag out rather than doing schoolwork and whenever the teacher wheeled out the computer. And I mean, as you said, she's there with her like iconic red trench coat and fedora, and she's so different than any other sort of villains at the time. Whenever you had like the villains, they were always like these very grotesque looking sort of characters, and here you have like a cool sexy chick who's at the same time super smart and cunning, and she's kind of in that sort of Catwoman wheelhouse of villainry where you should be hating her, but at the same time you can't help but root for her cunningness at the same time, and she just always plays her own agenda. So I think she's definitely a great addition to the list, and the fact that she's never really changed, they've never really changed her look or anything about it. They've just constantly like kept bringing her back time and time again, and she's just always had this sort of very classic sort of look and style to her.
So moving on to what's your next pick?
Okay, my next pick is from Final Fantasy VII, which it seems kind of fitting since we're finally getting the remake.
Yeah, and the demo is out as of the recording now.
So yeah, my character I'm going to choose isn't Ariel, which I guess everyone would like decide is like the most important female character, even though she sort of flakes it pretty early on. But I would actually go with Tiffia Lockhart as being my iconic character from not only just Final Fantasy VII, but just the Final Fantasy games in general. I mean, she's a kick-ass chick. She's a friend of our hero Cloud, and she's a eco-terrorist as part of the group Avalanche. And I love the fact that every other character in Final Fantasy VII have a weapon of some sort. I mean, like Cloud has his sword, Barret has his like machine gun fist, and she's there just beating people up with her fists and feet, which I always thought was really kind of cool. And the fact that her special move is to just do a backflip, which there's just something I always liked about her. And whenever it came to like choosing your party, I would always like gravitate towards bringing her along, because I just thought she just adds so much fun, and she adds a real sort of interesting sort of angle to the game. I mean, pretty early on, she sort of plays off well against Eris when you've got her and Cloud having a bit of a love triangle there, and I think she's just a really cool chick, and the fact that they've certainly managed to sort of like improve her. If you've had like the spin-offs and things such as like the anime of Advent Children, she's never actually lost anything, and she's probably one of the more grounded sort of characters in the game, but she's just, as I said, just always a delight to play, even though her special move is a roulette wheel, where you have to like line them up to sort of get maximum power from her, which makes her look almost as random as Cat Sif, who rolls dice for his attacks, but at least she's using something plausible rather than like a megaphone to attack her enemies. So for myself, Tifa would always be a standout of the not only Final Fantasy VII, but just the Final Fantasy games in general.
I think the best way to categorize her would probably be she's just a really fun character. I think a lot of people gravitate towards Aerith because she's kind of like that quiet, sweet, angelic kind of character, whereas Tifa is kind of like more of a tomboy. I would say that I side with you on this one for sure, because I definitely like Tifa more, especially because when I was younger, I also was somewhat of a tomboy. So, like, for me to see a character like this, it was kind of really fun to watch, because you're like, it's very different from how you would envision, I I guess the characters that have been built at that point, where they're all very I guess very sexy and very or very pretty or very like very feminine.
Yeah.
But for her, she's more like she I think she is like in this like kind of like these overall shorts or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is.
She's basically got shorts, work boots, and braces.
Yeah, exactly.
It's her outfit of choice.
Yeah, and that's so, and that is, and there's like this cuteness to the outfit that goes with this tomboy kind of look, right? And it's so it's so nice to see her, like you said, she only fights with her fists, so it really feels like she's at a disadvantage when you watch Cloud and everyone with their big armor and big weapons and stuff like that, and her, she's just standing there with just her fists and her boots and stuff like that. But it is really, I think Tifa is a really great character because of just the nature of the, I guess, the energy that she brings to all the scenes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I also love the fact, she's a independent and empowered female character. She doesn't rely on male characters to rescue her. She's constantly holding her own, and she sort of drives forward this tradition, really, which sort of followed, of just having these strong female characters within RPG games. So I think while that we sort of like forget just sort of the impact that she had, just the fact that she's isn't just sort of like sort of like the leading character. She's always the supporting character, but at the same time she just gives so much to the game and the world, and certainly in the story, in terms of the story, she definitely holds her own in what she brings to the story. So, and like you said, she's here fighting robots and old comers with just a fist. She's not, at least I suppose she's not using a bloody volleyball like Waka in Final Fantasy 12, I want to say. I still can't get over the fact that you go into battle when you throw a bloody volleyball at people. Anyway, what's next on your list then?
Yeah, so my choice is from Metal Gear Solid, one of the villainous characters, I suppose.
All right.
Yeah, so 1998 Metal Gear Solid. I think the character that appealed to me the most was Sniper Wolf.
Good choice.
I still remember like the battle of against Sniper Wolf and how crazy like that battle was, and just the lethalness of having a female sniper. I just remembered how great it like that feeling of her character and just how powerful it is, and I mean, Metal Gear Solid in general had some really kick-ass bosses in general, right? And there was, and like Sniper Wolf was one of that kind of like breaks in between, where it's a completely different battle from all your other ones, which was some of them. This one was more about just observing and being like very quiet, very still, very stable, and Sniper Wolf is this character which. It's kind of like she's kind of also kind of like that quieter character, just like how snipers are supposed to be. So it's in her quiet way. I think she's such a great addition.
It definitely is so. You said it straight off the bat. Obviously with Metal Gear Solid, one of the key aspects was that all the villains were so great. Mm-hmm. Like you can throw a rock at that game and hit an awesome villain. For myself, Psycho Mantis was my personal favorite, but even like you go to like lesser ones like Revolver Ocelot and like Liquid Snake himself. There's like every single character brought something to that game, and certainly with Sniper Wolf, it just was such a great boss battle for a start.
Yeah,
and when you finally defeat it, it's so dramatic.
Yeah.
That I don't think we all expected it to have such emotional response to this character.
Yeah, and like Sniper Wolf was, she has this compelling story that you hear about at when she's about to die, and her story comes out, and it's just this incredible, there's so much depth to this character who you've been, you know, kind of running after and then having to chase and defeat. It says a lot about, you know, obviously Hideo Kojima, and it says a lot about Metal Gear Solid as a game, but, you know, just having even the villains have such a strong story, and Wolf was obviously, you know, that story that kind of matched the character and had this, like, moment where, you know, it was so touching to hear that story, especially coming from a villain.
There's just something so perfect about that particular battle, the fact you got to take the diazepam to steady your aim, and the fact she's constantly taunting you. So it's this psychological battle that you're fighting as well as a skillful battle, because she goes toe to toe with Snake, and she's incredibly skilled at what she does with her sort of sniping ability. And it's kind of a shame that when we look at the GameCube remake Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes, that they kind of screwed it up, and everyone really got really antsy with the game for when it came to the Sniper Wolf battle. The fact that it was essentially ruined the battle because you could go to first person mode, and it's really, and as we said time and time again, Kojima just really knows how to subject our views of what video games are, and I think certainly with the whole of Metal Gear Solid, it did that. I think it was such an experience unlike anything else anyone sort of played. And then you have moments like the Sniper Wolf battle, and it just makes you realize that you're playing this epic story. It's not just a case of going from level to level, defeating boss after boss. You're building up these characters and this storyline and these ideas of love and loss, and how this all happens on the battlefield, and this warrior honor. Especially the fact that she doesn't, like, when you defeat her, she doesn't just like die instantly. You have this long drawn out sequence. And I mean, Ocelot, he kind of takes something away with his bloody out of nowhere proclaiming of his love for her, but apart from that, just those final moments that you have for this character, it's just some of the most perfect moments in video game in history.
Yeah. So, what's your next pick?
Good choice.
Thanks.
I wished I'd come up with that myself. I think that's an awesome choice. For myself, the next one to go with is certainly an iconic character, and it's one that you've mentioned already, and that's Chun-Li from Street Fighter. Chun-Li, I mean, she originally appears in like Street Fighter 2, and she's one of those iconic video game characters that even when the game was released, it was never sort of like a secondary character that you didn't want to play as. She was always like a top tier character right from the start, and the fact that she's so iconic even outside of video games, as people who don't even play video games, you know who Chun-Li is. She's got obviously her very imitable sort of style, including the kung fu buns, which I constantly, whenever you see someone who copies their hairstyle, that is always a reference to Chun-Li, follows quickly after as if you mention it. So she sort of plays into those sort of traditional sort of kung fu sort of stereotypes, but at the same time proves herself sort of as this character who's just not only strong but also fast at the same time. She's got a very sort of diverse moveset, and as the games have gone on and she's sort of been developed into this strongest woman in the world model that they've sort of gone with, I think there's been very few characters sort of followed in her wake that have really come close to actually beating her. I mean, yes, we obviously had like Camry, and we got Sakura, who very closely knocked her off this spot on the list. But I was just thinking, like, of who is the most sort of like iconic female characters in the series, and just time and time again it comes back to Chun-Li. I mean, even Jackie Chan portrays her in City Hunter, if you want to know just the sort of impact she has culturally. So if we're talking about those key characters in Street Fighter 2 or just the Street Fighter series, then Chun-Li is always going to be the one. So she definitely deserves a place on my list.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like I said in the beginning, like Chun-Li was one of the main reasons why I started to play Street Fighter. And even when I play Street Fighter, while all the boys were playing, you know, Ryu a lot, my go-to character was always Chun-Li. And even though, you know, I'm a crap fighting game player and I can't do combos to save my life, I still, you know, it's always been, you know, something that I've liked doing is I automatically gravitate towards her. And whether it's her outfit or, you know, the cute little, you know, the jumping in the air victory win thing that she does and all those little moments. Chun-Li is such, it obviously she's changed from the second Street Fighter till, the latest one, where, now she has these, like, thighs of steel. She's just such a, I guess you can say she's such an empowering character, because, at the time that she came out, she represented kind of like, she represented like the Chinese tradition. So for me, I felt a particular connection to her because not only was it coming from, my kind of background, and there at that point there wasn't a whole lot, even in Japanese games, it's, Japanese culture. So in this game there was, this Chinese girl with this cute little outfit, and she's just such kick-ass. She's so kick-ass because she has all these crazy fun moves, like, it just, all her special moves are so cool to do. There's so much to love about Chun-Li, and I think, you already said it, that she's this character that everybody, even non-gamers, know. And at the same time, all these different, there's Hong Kong movies and whatnot that have redone Street Fighter, and Chun-Li is always part of it, and it's really nice to see the different versions that we've had, and even till now, when you go to Comic-Con, I think there's always at least a few Chun-Lis on, that are there.
I think the other appeal with Chun-Li's characters, she had obviously like the lightning kick, which was like Blanca's electricity and Eddie Honda's thousand hand slap. Just the fact you could just pound away at the keys and have something really cool happen. And obviously like with the spinning bird kick.
Yeah.
Even just to mention spinning bird kick just makes you want to go spinning bird kick. It's so much fun to say. As I said, there's just so many fun aspects to her character. And when we also look at the characters that came in a way, because everyone wanted their own Chun-Li once they came out. So like Mortal Kombat has Sonya Blade, and then we got Li Fang in Dead or Alive, Xing Zhao in Tekken, and Pei Chan in Virtual Fighter. Because everyone wanted to have, the cute Chinese girl who kicks all the guys' asses. And you just see them constantly time and time again. And you're just like, no, this is just Chun-Li that you just basically tried to do something. Even though Ling Zhao in Tekken got her panda to fight alongside her, it was still like, it's like, no, you're just still trying to do Chun-Li, but you can't beat Chun-Li. She's just this perfect creation that's so timeless, and no matter as other characters sort of like fallen in that style, she's never been the case. She's always been like that top tier sort of character. And even like culturally, the fact that you mentioned already, I mean, you see in like kung fu movies like City Hunter, and you see in like Super Lady Cult, Cynthia Khan's character Ling is nicknamed Chun-Li. And I think, as I said, that was the great thing about Street Fighter 2, in the fact that you had these characters and that they were so recognizable and other fighting games didn't really ever manage to achieve that. I mean, yes, with Mortal Kombat you got certain characters like Scorpion and Sub-Zero. You could show somebody that ninja outfit and go, oh yeah, that's Scorpion, that's Sub-Zero, and that's Raiden. But with Street Fighter 2, every single character on that roster is like instantly recognizable, like just with the little mannerisms and their outfit choices and stuff. And yeah, even though Chun-Li on the surface, she seems like, oh, she's just this hot chick. But, the fact that she has this great fighting style and it's just so easy sort of pick up and fun to play, I think just really sort of has meant she's sort of evolved into being so much more. Mm. Yeah. But, what about yourself, Kim? Next on your list?
Next on my list, I'm going to go with something a little bit more recent. Mostly because my next two choices, I kind of have it higher on my list. So I'm going to go... I'm a bit torn right now because I feel like it's more of an entity that these two people are together. So I don't know if I should choose one or the other right now.
Okay.
So I'm talking about, obviously, our favorite game in the world, as people would think. And that's, Life is Strange, Chloe Price and Max Caulfield. Because in some ways, like, I want to say Max is a good character, like, because she's the character that we play throughout the game. Life is Strange, obviously. But if you think about, Before the Storm, we play as Chloe Price. And yet, I kind of like Chloe a lot more in Life is Strange. So, as, a combo, I kind of like them both. I can't decide which one I like more. I think, obviously Max is a different type of character because she kind of runs the show here. Chloe runs the show because she's so quirky and so fun and so much more expressive than, say, Max, who is the one who has all the powers and all this photography and all the monologues and all that stuff. But I think, Don't Nod Entertainment in general, Don't Nod Entertainment creates some really great characters. The game sometimes maybe not quite there. Like, we did look at, I think for a split second I did want to, like, as honorable mention, I did have Nilin from Remember Me. Because while the game has its faults, the character itself didn't. But, I mean, I'm going to stick with, obviously, Chloe Price and Max Caulfield here. Chloe Price being, obviously the character that stands out a lot more because, her blue hair and her personality in general is, there's so much, angst and so much teenage anger and so much depth in her story that we learn so much about this character in general, that Chloe Price is really great character also because, she's voiced obviously by Ashley Birch. I think if we go with a lot of the newer, the last 10 years of video games, Ashley Birch has voiced a lot of really great characters. Obviously one on my list is Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, which I don't know if it made it on your list because I didn't play the game, so I didn't put it in.
It came close.
It came very close, yeah?
But yet, she is very iconic, definitely, so...
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, you look at Ashley Birch's, like, list of the characters that she's done, and it's like, she's Tiny Tina, she's Aloy. I mean, she even turns up as herself in Saints Row 4. Which is just great. She's Cassie Cage. She's April O'Neil. It just goes on and on. I mean, she's even done Chun-Li when we look at Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. It's just, the list goes on and on. It's like she's got such incredible voice work, and that she's like been the persona for so many sort of like iconic characters within video games that she certainly brings her own. But I think when it came to the character of Chloe, that was one of the few times that she was like really took a character and it felt it was like very much her own. It was like very much her own. And I think Aloy was the only other one that sort of came close to sort of matching that. Other one seemed like very much an extension of work she'd done elsewhere. Like when you look at Tiny Tina, it's just essentially like her character she was playing on her web series Hey Ash, What You Playing?
Yeah. I mean, like, Chloe Price is I think a lot of credit to how great the character is does link to Ashley Birch bringing so much, giving so much life to this character and so much, obviously also the writers of Life is Strange gets a lot of credit for writing up this really, this character and the path that she takes in the game despite being, pretty much an NPC. I mean, Chloe Price is so memorable. I think that's the main thing, is in the recent few years of gaming, she's definitely been kind of like this standout character. And whether you like Life is Strange or not, Chloe Price is just this character that you remember because she has such a big personality there. And so much, she takes up so much of that game and what happens and whatnot. And just we in Arcadia Bay, that I just really think she's just such a well-crafted character, and it's a pity that we don't have any more games by her, but I think it's because we don't have so many just stretching her character out that we get to enjoy her character at her best in Life is Strange.
I definitely agree with yourself. I mean, they're very much two sides of the same coin when you look at Max and Chloe, and I think this is what makes the first game stand out so much, especially when you compare it to like Before the Storm, where we're obviously just playing as Chloe, and the fact that she hasn't got Max to play off really becomes apparent. And again, this was what made the first game so great, is that these two characters complement each other so perfectly. They both give so much to each other's sort of personality. There's so much fun. It just sort of makes the investigation in Arcadia Bay all much more fun. The fact that, you know, they start off as friends and you have the option to turn it into something more if you wish. And I can't see another character where you would tear a hole in time and space, let alone wipe out a whole town just to save them. Yeah. If it had been any other character in that game, I don't think players would be so willing to make such a huge sacrifice as they obviously are willing to do with Chloe. And I think it took even the developers by surprise, is the fact that when you compare the two endings, the one where you save the town and sacrifice Chloe, spoiler alert here, the ending is much more developed than compared to the one where you save Chloe and wipe out the whole town, which seems like very much like an afterthought, and that's the one everyone seemed to gravitate towards. So, but I mean, I loved Life is Strange. It's just such a wonderful game. You know, the small seaside town with dark secrets, and the fact it had such a Twin Peaks vibe. You had the time travel elements, you had those butterfly effect sort of elements in there, and just how the mystery built up and these characters that you encounter and the locations around. And at the heart of it was always this friendship / relationship between Max and Chloe. It was just so great to watch unfold, and just have these two independent chicks who just don't need guys. They don't need to constantly... They're able to have conversations without like mentioning another male character, which was something that's kind of a rarity in video games when you start thinking about it more and more. And it does, as the series has obviously gone on, and we had like before the Storm, and more recently we had Life is Strange 2, which failed to just really again capture the magic of this first game. But I just keep going back to it, sort of like, we just want to watch Max and Chloe. These are the people we want to spend time with. We don't want to be with the Wolf brothers, and we don't want to be doing busy work with Chloe and her girlfriend that obviously came before Max. So
yeah,
but no, very good choice.
Yeah, and
another one I would have on my list if you're not stole it. My next one, I think if I don't choose this next one and we don't mention it, then we're gonna have like a horde of angry people outside the office and just like saying how we're just like dismissing so many years of video game history. And the next one is obviously the very iconic Lara Croft.
You took my choice, damn it.
Did I?
Yeah.
I was so worried.
First one, but it's okay. You go. I have other choices.
Are you sure? I can get back to you.
You go.
Okay, so Tomb Raider, first appeared back in 1996, which seems like an absolute decade ago, but this is a character that helped launch the PlayStation. It made gaming cool again as PlayStation appeared in nightclubs and everyone got to dance to electro tunes of the Chemical Brothers and Prodigy while playing Wipeout. And I think certainly Tomb Raider played a huge part in the success of the PlayStation, alongside the likes of Crash Bandicoot and obviously the aforementioned Wipeout. Here we had a female-fronted game, which again was very unusual at the time, and we've also got a female character that sort of flies in the sort of face of many female characters of the time. Here we have got an independent Indiana Jones style character. It also says a lot about the time, and the fact that she was considered so hot that she was making the Maxim hottest women of the year list. And you have to remind yourself, kids, that this is a virtual character. She's not a real person. Yet you would have teenage boys with posters of her on the wall and having questionable thoughts about said character. But for myself, while she obviously has this epically series of games, it was really once we come to the reboot series, headed up by Viviana Pratchett, with the 2003 series, that she sort of really came into her own. We rebooted the character, we get right back to the beginning, and got to see her become the Tomb Raider. The fact that you had this character who goes through this sort of epic journey, she's learning her skills and has this real sort of survivalist edge to her that sort of built up over the the games and sort of like was added to with Rise of the Tomb Raider and more recently with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, that she just sort of really came into her own, and we sort of really got to see what this character is about. She wasn't just, the hot chick who can do backflips and weld twin pistols and fight dinosaurs and solve puzzles and swim ungodly amounts of distances underwater. Here it was, as I said, it was just with the 2013 games. She just sort of really came into her own and just like made us really sort of tapped into what was so great about this character. So
yeah, for sure.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
Tomb Raider is incredible. I think obviously, I like the beginning games really a lot, and that's probably the time when I played the most Tomb Raider. The newer games, I really do like the reboot in the story format. I've never really finished playing the games. I'm still, slowly working through it. But I mean, Crystal Dynamics did a superb job at putting together this reboot trilogy for the character, and it's the greatest thing is that the game was written to be a trilogy, to build this character into who she is, and it gives so much depth to this the 2013 game till obviously I think it was what the last game was in 2017 or 2018 or something like that, or last year, I can't remember when the game was. The Shadow of Tomb Raider, I can't remember when it came out.
Yeah
it's... and I had heard an interview at Montreal Comic-Con about Shadow of Tomb Raider and how they had structured her character to grow throughout these 3 games, and it's very interesting because as you watch this Tomb Raider character grow, like Lara Croft through her 3 games becomes this whole different character, right? She's, like you said, she's not just puzzle solving, she's not just but she has all these skills. She has the brains, and she has the courage and the strength, and she has her own goals, and a lot of them it starts off in a way where she's just learning about this whole tomb raiding thing, and eventually she gains by Shadow of Tomb Raider she really comes to her own, where now the situation is more something that's in her hands, and every decision she makes is kind of like an extra burden on what choice she makes will create the situation that she's gonna have to face.
Definitely so, and I think certainly something that was picked up by Dr. Mark Griffiths at Nottingham Trent University. He describes Lara Croft as psychological tabula rasa, in the fact that here we have a character whose sort of loosely defined personality allows players in many ways to imprint their own onto her and form more of a relationship with this character. And certainly we see this with each of these games that have come through, and I think it's certainly by the fact that when you look at the games that came before the 2013 reboot, she'd been reduced to, especially in like Angel of Darkness, just this sort of like virtual blow-up doll, and just to have her strip back, just take away all the powers and abilities and just make her just this very vulnerable character with just this really interesting experience. And just the setting as well, it's sort of like you're on this island, you've got these resources, and you've got to sort of like use your minimalist training and your wits and your skills to sort of bring it all together. And you're seeing this character just evolve over the course of the game, and the fact that they were able to continue showing a character evolving over the games which followed, I think has just sort of been only sort of revived her appeal as a character, because the problem is that when you have like a character, and we saw this again with the Assassin's Creed Enzo trilogy, and the fact that you have a character who reaches a sort of point and you're just sort of adding on sort of like skills rather than developing a character, and by stripping her right back to those sort of basics, I think it was the best thing for her, and just giving it a chance to this character to be remolded and revitalized a bit from just her sort of 90s persona, because while she was obviously great in the 90s, that same sort of character seemed very sort of like tired and didn't really carry across to a more modern audience. So just having her strip back and having the power of the newer consoles to actually do something different with her, and what they did with this character is just fantastic, and it's so funny. Sort of revitalized, what reminded you what you sort of love about this character. It should be noted though that Lara Croft holds the Guinness World Record for most official real life stand-ins. Although I think many people would say that Angelina Jolie is the embodiment of Lara Croft, even though the films weren't particularly great. You kind of got the feeling that this is the person who is Lara Croft when you see him on screen.
But I think it's really an in character with, the old Lara Croft, right? Because as a more vulnerable character and in her, the 2013 and so on, that trilogy that came reboot afterwards, you don't feel as much the Angelina Jolie in there anymore. You really feel, someone else. I'm not sure people really bought the whole Alicia Vikander deal either, but I think she did decently to reflect the character. To embody this Tomb Raider, like this Lara Croft in the reboot, I'm not sure who would be. I just don't see Angelina Jolie as that person anymore.
Yeah, I've yet to see the new film. I don't know how the new girl took on the legacy there at all.
Well, she has some big shoes to fill, right? So obviously.
Did you see the new film or not?
I did. I saw it in theaters.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You were the person who gave the money. Because Alicia Vikander obviously took on the character in the 2018 reboot. I've yet to see it. It's on Netflix, but I've yet to actually sit down and watch it. So.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think for a video game movie, I think it does its job. It does a good reflection of what the reboot series has been about. It's a video game movie. Let's not get too excited here. People have these high hopes, and then about video game movies turning out really well. The concept is video games are fun because you're playing the character. When you have to watch it in a movie, it's not interactive. It's not going to definitely be as immersive as you playing the game. So
I know, but we always say this about video game movies, and then we forget the cinematic masterpiece and certainly deserving a Criterion release that is Mortal Kombat. So.
And yet Mortal Kombat characters are only getting a mention so far on our list.
I know.
Not really an actual spot.
I can tell you why though. It's just when I think of when you think of Mortal Kombat characters, there's always the ones who came before them that sort of paved the way. I mean, and that's why I went with my list. It's all who paved the ways.
Exactly. The deal right now is that Sonya Blade was a real front runner here, and then you think about it, and it's do I put Sonya Blade or Chun-Li? And then you're like, well, Chun-Li, obviously. And then, you chose Chun-Li, and then I was like, well, I still don't want to put Sonya Blade because what can she compare, Either way, I mean, that's that. So anyways, I'm going to move on to my pick.
Okay.
Okay, so my pick is, I'm going to commit and go with one that's a bit odd, but I'm going to pick 2B from Nier Automata.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2B from Nier Automata is this, my hesitation here is because 2B is technically a android. So she's not really a real life person, but she looks like a lady. So I'm not sure whether you can use her or not, but to me, I think she qualifies. So pretty much 2B is a female android. She's a member of the Yorha, which is an automated infantry squad. She's obviously, 2B goes with her thing that she's the B model of these, so she has a lot of close quarter combat, and Nier Automata definitely uses her in that sense where, because these androids they're able to take on a lot of enemies, which are big machines pretty much. And there are different abilities that they have where I think what stands out the most about 2B is her character design, for me at least. I think her character design is incredibly cool and so pretty and so nice. And it's one of those things where, you know, her character is an android, and yet she feels so real when you play it, and at the same time, you know, she has a robot, she has like this robot companion with her that she can use, and her skills on, you know, fighting and how to repel and all these things. There's so much to her character which is so likable. I can't say too much. I think it's kind of a cheat that I put it on here because I didn't finish the game yet. But I think, you know, as a character design, it was one of the characters in the recent years that, you know, as in kind of like as in their own, you know, Nier series, this one is one that really appealed to me, the character itself. And I have to say, you know, like Nier Automata, the only reason that I wanted to play it was because I saw this character.
It's not one I've heard of, so you got one over me. So,
well, no, I had you know, talked about it during, you know, when we had the demo and stuff like that, a few years back when the game came out. Obviously, you know, hopefully one day we'll play this game and we'll talk about it. Encourage me to finish it at some point. Okay, let's move on. What's your next pick?
I'm going to, for my last pick, I'm going to go with Ellie from The Last of Us. Now, The Last of Us is sort of one of these games that's just, it's become one of these iconic titles, and I think the reason a lot of people bought a PlayStation just to play The Last of Us is it's one of those exclusive games, again produced by Naughty Dog, who obviously gave us the Uncharted games, and I think it's one of those titles that I think Sony is so glad that they've got it as an exclusive, because even though the game was released back in 2013, it's still a game that's so widely talked about, and it's discussed almost like it's a new game. It never seems to have aged at all, even though we've got the upcoming sequel coming out soon. But the game itself, I mean, she's a young girl who you're basically helping, you're escorting across the country, as she's immune from this disease that sort of ravaged the world, and you play as Joel, who's basically tasked with escorting her, and over the course of the game you see this relationship between them grow, and there's so many sort of like levels to their sort of relationship. The fact that he views her in many ways as being like similar to his teenage daughter that he loses at the start of the game, and the fact that she's this character you're escorting, it's just, as I said, normally when you're playing like games where you're escorting characters, it's normally like a pain in the ass unless it's done like particularly well, such as like Journey to the West, or we like look at Eco, and this is certainly again one of these characters, these creations where, much like we saw with Life is Strange, you've got two characters who just complement each other so well, and certainly when it comes to like Joel and Ellie, then she's definitely, she's sort of like the real sort of driving force behind your journey, and you do develop this sort of like protective relationship over her. So when we obviously look at the sequel, and obviously she's now being moved to more of the center sort of focus of the game, sort of like only sort of like stresses her sort of like importance really. But as I said, it's just the relationship between Joel and Ellie is just one of the great storylines that we've had in video game history, much like we saw, as I said, we mentioned already, with like Metal Gear Solid, and just when you think of like these games which sort of elevate storytelling and just like give us another way which we can tell stories. And I think certainly with The Last of Us it was certainly always the case, but yeah, I think she sort of paves in many ways other sort of like tough video game heroines, such as like Clementine in the Walking Dead saga from Telltale Games, where we saw her going from being this scared little girl to this tough zombie killer, and I think in many ways it was sort of Ellie sort of paved the way for a character like Clementine to exist. So that's why she has her place on my list. So
it's good. I mean, Ellie is definitely a great choice. It was on my list also. It just kind of, I figured you'd use it anyway, so I didn't bother to put it on mine. That's the real answer. Now, Ellie is a really great character. I think, like you said, characters that kind of, play off of each other. And I think that was one of the things is that because Ellie in The Last of Us is a little girl, essentially, she's a younger character.
Yeah.
We really have that protective feeling over her where, everything, she's kind of like, the reason that Joel, I can't remember the name anymore. Joel, yeah. The reason that Joel moves forward in his journey is, a lot of it is based on this younger character, which is with him the whole time. And that bond makes it so good and so strong, and it gives that story that that profound feeling, a much more you have your dramatic angles, and it brings so much to the table. And Ellie is this character that I think that even when we talk to people a lot of times, that Ellie is kind of like Chun-Li in a more modern version, in the sense that a lot of people who haven't really played The Last of Us know of The Last of Us story and this character of Ellie, and it's incredible to see where her character has become, and now obviously I really look forward to seeing where they're going to take where Naughty Dog is going to take the character of Ellie in the sequel. Obviously, in the trailers that we've seen so far and the first reveals and stuff like that, we see that she's part of, she's a lesbian at this point. She has a girlfriend, and we're having these, it's an interesting development in kind of like her character, to see, what they're going to make of this story here. With, kind of like this basis that now that we know, and the world right now, obviously, because, we don't really know the world how it's changed at this point.
It's even now we're mentioning like Last of Us, I just want to like go off and play it again. it's like one of those games. So like you mentioned The Last of Us, it's like, I really want to go and play Last of Us now. So Kim's gonna finish wrapping up this podcast, and I'm gonna go and do that. So. No.
We only have one more. You can do this. You can do this. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna go and quickly take my pick so that you can go and head off and play some games. My next pick is kind of like unconventional in a certain way. I feel like I'm getting very unconventional with this list right now, because after some thought, after you stole Lara Croft from me, I had to scramble to get another title in. Lara Croft would have been my number one. I'm gonna do Amaterasu from Okami. I don't know if you played the game.
The Magic Wolf game. Yes, I have played it.
Yeah, so Okami is pretty much Amaterasu is pretty much the main character in Okami, where she is a white wolf, which pretty much portrays the goddess of, I believe, sun in the Japanese mythology. So it's this wolf with this pattern who needs to revive the lands. With I played this on DS, and pretty much what it is you have to like draw out these different symbols to bring back life and conquer all the evil that's on the land, sort of thing. And it's this I just think the design for Amaterasu is so cool because of this white wolf with all these like red markings on it, and then it has like this tray of fire on its butt, and it is incredibly just it's such a beautiful character, especially because the only dialogue, Amaterasu in general doesn't really talk. It's really just that little cricket character that follows you around, who does all the smart ass talking that goes on. I don't really have much to say about it. I just really think Okami is one of those games where it's really driven by the main character being this beautiful wolf, and she's reflective of, the actual goddess. And I think that, it's so great. It really shows, games and how it brings out that different cultures and mythologies that to you know, the outside world.
As I said, you forget some certain characters are obviously female. I mean, we could obviously talk about like Six in Little Nightmare. You forget that she's a little girl.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you know, we had our debate about the whole thing. Is, you know, Six would rank very high for me if in the world where do you consider her a female character, or do you consider her a child character, right? I mean, we can have another whole list of children characters all over again if we really wanted to, and just like, you know, we can have another character on non-humans, and we can have, you know, a whole, you know, there are millions of ideas that we have going on right now. So yeah, I mean, okay, yeah. Obviously there are a lot of, you know, actual human choices that could have gone into this, and I mean, you know, obviously you mentioned Aerith, and I mentioned Aloy, and you know, there's obviously, you know, if we talk to Resident Evil, there's, you know, Ada Wong and Claire Redfield, and Overwatch is a bunch as well, and I almost leaned into some NPC characters, you know, that we deal with in Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, which was amazing. You know, another, you know, non-human character would be like GLaDOS from Portal, which is also quite memorable. You know, there's a lot. I mean, Alien Isolation had Amanda Ripley, and we and, you know, Mortal Kombat has so much. Soul Calibur, you know, Taki, Talon.
I know why Ellen Ripley didn't make my list, and that's purely because when I'm playing Alien Isolation, I'm just so damn terrified of anything that's happening in the game to remember who I'm actually supposed to be playing.
Well, the deal with Alien Isolation, I think, is really that because you're in first person, you forget that you're playing as a lady. You're playing as Ripley, right? So the character becomes kind of like falls into the background a little. So that was one of the reasons why it didn't really make my list, was because of that. I think Alien Isolation's appeal is fighting xenomorphs as Ripley, and not as the character could have been anybody, and it would have still been okay, you know, like it was the structure of the game, you know, like we talked about at the beginning, you know, there are different games that the characters are female, but you don't play the games because of the character design. You play the games because of the nature of what it is. Obviously, that's our opinion, right? I mean, if whatever we mention here, or whatever we fail to mention here, is on, you know, your top female characters, video game characters, then, you know, let us know, and, you know, tell us in the comments, or, you know, whatnot. Leave us in a comment on whichever social media platform or that you prefer.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing when I was like compiling the list, it's like, well, who's like the ones who paved the way? And yeah, I mean, there's obviously characters like Ivy from Soul Calibur, who I'm sure a lot of people would have on their list. I mean, the fact that she's got a chest that can breastfeed a bloody orphanage is beyond another point entirely, and the fact that she has, with each new volume of Soul Calibur, has a more ridiculous outfit than the last. Yeah, she's been this iconic sort of character of the series since she showed up in Soul Calibur, and she's certainly one of my favorites to play with, and not because of her bloody outfits. Before you start, Kim, and then we can like go back to like the Samurai Showdown games, which again had so many great characters like Charlotte and Nakaroto and Cham Cham, who Cham Cham in particular, I mean, when we were talking about the brutally cute characters over on the blog, was one of the ones that made the list with her cool little boomerang attack and pet monkey. Another one that I was surprised didn't make either our list would be Jade from Beyond Good and Evil.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely there. I mean, I think it just missed the list. Mostly because, you know, Jade is a really cool character, but at the same time, she's also one that's kind of like wielding cameras and stuff like that, and we kind of already had that with Max. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess Jade would have been more suitable in the sense that she is kind of like the first group who is like a female-oriented character with a camera. You know, considering that, you know, you go into afterwards, you know, Japan has Fatal Frame and all those things, which uses the camera in a different way. So, yeah, I mean, Jade was definitely there. She was a strong contender, for sure.
I just love the fact that Ubisoft managed to play around with our expectations when it came to Beyond Good and Evil 2. And the fact that one of the biggest complaints when we had the first trailer for Beyond Good and Evil 2 was the fact that it's like, where's Jade? Where's Jade? And then the second trailer they released, and it's like the big payoff at the end there. It's like, oh, here's Jade, and she's evil. It was just like...
talking about that, it's like, but Beyond Good and Evil 2 is kind of like the game that's always constantly in the making right now, and there's nothing more since that time. We saw maybe 2 years in a row of something going on, and then after that now it's just like silence. Like, if you're part of that whatever monkey program, space monkey program thing, then you get like different videos or whatnot of the progress of whatever moving at snail pace. But I don't know. I mean, might take another 10 years to make, for all we know. Yeah.
It's they're certainly dragging it out, because when we got that first trailer, it seemed to be under the impression that it was sort of like just around the corner that we were having it, and it was just these little last bits and pieces that they were doing. But
but then you look at like the videos that they go out of that they have out. Like, I watched a few of them where it's like in the making, right? There's so much to polish, and I think that was from maybe at least, if not half a year ago or something like that, I've seen it, and then now I just gave up following it. So I'm just gonna wait for them to surprise me and be like, woohoo, it's coming out now, soon, or whatever, next month, 6 months later. I'm just gonna be there for that.
So, but as far as I can tell, still in development. There's nothing to say that they are not currently working on it. So I think it's gonna be one that I would get for the Switch randomly. I think it'll be really fun on the Switch.
Yeah.
But it's got to come out first for that to happen. God knows what we'll be playing it on. I mean, looking at the new generation of the coming out, I mean, you can play on the Xbox monolith, or you can. We've also got the new PlayStation that may turn up on yet, and I don't know, the Switch brain chip or whatever Nintendo go with next as their wacky invention. So. Anything else did you want to mention at all in terms of video game characters?
I'm done.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of Game Warp. Thank you as always for listening, and thank you to my co-host Kim. We will be back again soon with another review. But in the meantime, obviously check out our blog, which is gamewarpblog.wordpress.com, where we post reviews and we post other fun bits and pieces on there as well. You can follow us on both Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram. And if you want to hear us talk about movies, go and check out our movie discussion podcast, Movies and Tea, where each season we dedicate ourselves to reevaluating the work of a director. We've just in the process of wrapping up the production for season 4, which has been on angrily, so definitely go check that out, and you can check that out at moviesandteapodcast.wordpress.com, as well as all places which good podcasts can be found. If you haven't done already, please do hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps raise the profile of the show. But also leaving us a review. Let us know what you think of the show. We really appreciate everyone who's following us and helping support the show already. And definitely, if you know anyone who likes video games, definitely let them know about the show as well. And also get in touch with us. There's something you would like to hear us review. We are always open to suggestions and
or discussion topics.
Hopefully, yes, because one of the things we want to be doing, we're going to be doing more of these shows. We've got a whole list of topics we want to discuss, and if there's something you want to hear us do a discussion show on, definitely let us know. So, but until next time, thank you as always for listening, and we'll be back soon. So until then, good night.